OMG, this is part 2. Hopefully I didn't lose you, but this is my commentary for the last 2 days in the Karmelo Anthony trial. I was cut off on my last live because, baby, I was like, ooh, I don't know, but let's get to it. Anyways, so the last live was part 1. I was on live for 2 hours and 30 minutes. This is part 2. So in part 1, we go over the testimony of the paramedic that came on the scene, the officer that was trying to downplay Karmelo's emotion. We went over the criminalist that testified. We went over one of the boys that, gave their testimony, and now we are back. Hopefully you guys find this live okay. We're getting back into the groove. Also, while I was briefly gone, I wanted to see if people were reporting the main guy's name, and so according to Fox 7, they are listing Eddie as being 18 years old, and they are listing his name over here. So let's see. 16-year-old athlete, and they put, where did I see it at? Anyways, it was on here. Right here. Defense attorney began examining Eddie Parra. So on Fox 7, we see that they're listing him, they're naming him, so I can name him. I was like, oh my God, like, was I supposed to say Eddie? Okay, Eddie, we could say Eddie. We're back. So this is part 2. Make sure y'all share the video. Make sure y'all share everything. This is part 2. And on my last video, we left off on basically saying, like, how did he provoke them if they're the ones all in his face? Like, they're the ones. Part 1 is up. If they're the ones all in his face, how is he provoking them? Part 1 is up, you guys. So let's get to it. So, but the next people that I go over, okay, well, y'all probably don't know the names of the other kids, so y'all won't mess me up. But y'all was messing me up by constantly putting his name in the chat. But I'm like, okay, if they put the name in the chat, they must know it. But anyways, okay, boom. Let's get back into it. So, okay, so he said that Melo was trying to escalate the situation and trying to provoke Austin into maybe starting a fight. Austin was calm, and then he started to get aggressive. He said that Karmelo was provoking. He said Austin leaned in and Karmelo stabbed him. The knife came from the backpack in Karmelo's lap. He had his hands in his backpack. He thought it was a bluff. And then this is when they started using the buzzwords. They said, why did you think that he was bluffing? So they're basically asking this witness, when Karmelo put his hands in his bag to insinuate, like, don't come over here and F around and find out, why did you think that it was a bluff? And then this is the buzzword. We live in a safe area, and they don't see anything like that. And then so they said that he heard the knife fall because he just heard like a clunk. And Karmelo jumps out the tent and runs a little. Austin, while Karmelo was like running, Austin like revealed that he had got stabbed. He lifted up his shirt and then he fell down the bleachers onto his back, then lifted up his shirt. That, there was a bloody stain, and it says, he was thinking like, I gotta get up and see what happened. And he pulled out his phone and he called the ambulance. And they wanted to know, like, okay, so what kind of push was this? Was it a heavy push? Was it a light push? Like, what was it? And then he says, it was a light shove or a hard shove. I would say it was in between. Hunter was at the bottom of the tent and not involved with any of this, and nobody ganged up on Karmelo or anything. He went to the bottom of the bleachers and ran onto the track when he left. He says that he called 911 while following Karmelo, and then he hung up with 911, and then he went to his bus and called his mom. Then a police got him and got him to the field for an interview. Shows where it happened and where he sat on the bleachers. He was close enough he could have reached out and touched either Melo or Austin. And then they played his 911 call. So on his 911 call, he says, my friend just got stabbed. And then they wanted to know, well, who did he get stabbed by? And then he says, he was wearing a gray Essentials hoodie. He's black. He's wearing blue sweats. He was stabbed in his chest. Austin got stabbed in the chest. Yeah, he is with a coach. We're all walking to our buses. And then he said, yes, ma'am, everyone is being evacuated out the stadium. And then they said, you remember that call? He said, yes, sir. Hard to listen to. Hard day. And then he said, yeah, it was a hard day. It says, he showed a video of them enter with another kid from a different school with the twins into the stadium. And then it showed a picture of him and his friend following Karmelo out. So they showed like a freeze frame of the surveillance where they were like running after Karmelo and walking him out. It says, did Melo tell Austin what he would have to do to get him to leave the tent? He said, only thing I remember, he said, is touch me and find out. And then they wanted to know, do you see Karmelo in court? So when they're doing this testimony, it was right after they had played the 911 call of the student calling to report that that their friend just got stabbed. Now, when they played that 911 call that the teammate had did, I noticed that the Metcalf family was crying. And then I wrote a note and I said, jurors are looking at the Metcalfs while they're crying. Because they was like looking over and looking at them while they're crying. It says, so it says, who was the one who was provoking? They said Karmelo was provoking. And then they said, what did you do the next day after the incident happened? They said the next day after the incident happened, they all went to Austin's favorite restaurant. So when they said that they went to Austin's favorite restaurant, then his mama really started, crying or whatever. And the jurors was like looking and observing. And then it was time for cross by the defense. It says, you were asked if one of the students can go under the tent, and you said probably not. It says, our coach wouldn't like it. They might be able to walk by, but coach says, no, don't let anyone in our tent. And then they wanted to know, okay, so where was Melo sitting in your tent? He said that Melo was sitting outside of the tent. So they had a tent, and then according to this witness, Melo was outside of the tent. Okay. So then they showed him this big diagram of the stadium blown up. And then he says that Melo and Eddie were both sitting outside of the tent. And then they said, if he was outside of the tent, then what's the problem? And the guy said, well, I guess it was just he was in the relative area. You remember him not even being in the tent. You pretty sure of that? He says, Hunter stayed more at the bottom and Austin was more towards the top. Austin came up the bleachers. At some point, he turned around and Melo was there sitting down outside the tent. He saw them sitting and talking, having a friendly convo. just having a convo. I don't remember if they looked like they were having an argument, but I don't think so. The first person to talk to Melo, somebody said, we shouldn't have people over here. He said, my name is Melo. He was asked to leave and then he got upset. Then they wanted to know if Eddie said anything, like, okay, so when all of these people are confronting Karmelo, did Eddie say anything? Did he say, like, this is my friend, y'all, you know what I mean, or anything? Did he say anything? They said Eddie didn't say nothing. So mind you, Karmelo, at this point, Karmelo and Eddie done hung out several times. You get what I'm saying? So Eddie clearly was a buster, like a little twerk. How do you say? Not a little twerk, but a little, what's the T word I'm looking for? Like a little twerk, like a little, he was a little buster. You've been kicking it with this boy. Y'all been cool. Y'all ain't had no bad vibes. Y'all ain't had no argument. He come dap you up, and then people talking to him sideways, and you don't even open up your mouth enough. Like, you don't have the cojones. A little twerp. Yeah, there we go. Like, you don't even have the cojones to tell your friends, this is my friend, or this is such and such girlfriend, boyfriend, or, you know, whatever. Like, oh, this is my cousin boyfriend. Because the girl that Karmelo dates, he called her his cousin. So scary. There you go. Little scary, little twerp. You chilling with this boy, y'all got all these pictures, y'all doing family functions, and then people are pressing him, and you don't even have the balls to say, like, chill, this is my cousin's boyfriend. Half the students didn't even know that Eddie and him was cool like that, because Eddie just sitting there while they pressing him, and he know dang well the only reason why he over there is because he was coming to talk to him. With friends like that or associates like that, who need enemies? Somebody said peer pressure and trying to fit in. I mean, I get it. Like, there's peer pressure and then there's busters. I don't know. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like the way that I'm raising my daughter, I'm just like trying to raise her with integrity. Like, I can't see somebody going to say hi to my daughter at school, and my daughter just barely turned 13. And then they ganging up on a kid, and my daughter don't at least say, well, no, you know, I don't know. I don't know what kids will do. I can't speak exactly for what my child would do, but I just would hope that, you know what I mean, she got enough integrity to at least say, oh, well, you know, such and such came to say hi to me, but, you know, well, all right, like, at the very least, he could have been like, when they start asking him, like, oh, who are you, and whoop whoop, he could have been like, all right, or like de-escalated it. He could have de-escalated it, but instead he escalated it. He act like he was recording it with his phone. He was laughing. He was joining in on them, calling his bluff like a little punk. Like, his family, like, I don't know. They didn't teach him, like, I don't know if they didn't teach him integrity, but they just taught, like, he just instigated everything, you know, even more. Instead of saying, hey guys, chill, because these are his friends, his teammates. Hey guys, chill. Like, all right, Melo, I'll see you later. Like, or walking Melo away from the tent, like, oh, they tripping. Like, here, like, you know, and walk him up the bleacher or something. Like, he didn't de-escalate. He didn't say anything. He didn't, like, nothing. Like, he just let them press him. So that's why I'm thinking it got to be more to it. Like, either he jealous of Karmelo because he's dating the so-called cousin that ain't his blood cousin, but he just met the girl a couple years ago and now he calling her cousin? Or what is it? It's something like, because that type of betrayal, it had to been, you had to been jealous or feeling some type of way the whole time. So, you know, you said you think that he recorded it. We'll never know. The police did not do a proper investigation of that phone, so we don't know. So anyways, where we go, oh, so they wanted to know if, hold on. Okay, so they was like, okay, so while they getting into it, how long did it go for? They said it go for a couple of minutes. Austin stood up when people asked him to leave and he wouldn't. Melo was sitting down and Austin stood up. They said he might have also said make me leave after touch me and find out, because they're like, okay, so what all did Karmelo say? And he's like, well, he probably said make me leave. But he didn't do that. Like, I'm being extra by doing that. He didn't do that. But he said they probably said make me leave. And then, or he probably said touch me and find out. I don't remember. So he said, okay, so what happened next after they was getting into it? And Melo either said make me leave or touch me and find out. He said Melo unzipped his bag and put his hand in it. Austin was 3 bleachers in the front of him. Melo said touch me and find out. And so when he said touch me and find out, Austin thought it was a bluff, but he made it obvious his hand was in the backpack. But he took it as like it could have been a threat or it could have been a warning. Some boys said they don't think he got anything in the bag. Austin said, we are from Frisco. You don't have anything in there. He got up and was a bleacher in front of him, telling him, you need to go. They both got more angry. Karmelo was still sitting down, and Austin got close enough to push him. He used 2 hands by his shoulders, and he said he was a few feet away. So this witness and several other witnesses, basically, like, there's truths and then there's lies. Like, you have to go through all of their testimony to see what lines up and is exact. What majority of them say is Austin was like a few bleachers away, and then he walked up on Karmelo. So as he's walking up on Karmelo, Karmelo got his hand in his bag, and then he come up, Karmelo's still sitting down or whatever, and then he push him, and then Karmelo, boop, do him like that. So they said Melo said touch me and find out. They thought it was a bluff, but he made it obvious his hand was in his backpack. It could have been a threat or a warning. Some boys said they don't think he got anything in the bag. Austin said, we are in Frisco. You don't have anything in there. He got up and was a bleacher in front of him, telling him, you need to go. They both got more angry. Karmelo was still sitting down, and Austin got close enough to push him. He used 2 hands by his shoulders, and he was a few feet back. And then they said, so you saw Melo lean and go back and saw emotion? They said they seen him lean back, and then his hand went forward. So they're like, Melo went back, but as he went back, it was like he pushed him, and at the same time he pushed him, boom, like it was like simultaneously, like as he was pushing him, Melo was stabbing. Like, he's walking up on Melo, and Melo got his hand in his bag. So right as he's pushing, Melo is like, you know what I mean? Like the same time type of thing, to where many of the kids didn't even see him stab him because it was so quick. He said it all happened quickly, so quickly that he didn't even see the knife. All right. So the next witness is a Black kid. He's 18 years old, Jalen. And he's the class of 2026. He's off to college in the fall. He graduated from Memorial. They were like, "Oh, point out your dad in the back." And then the prosecution made his dad stand up. So each of the kids who testified, or barely adults, they would all get one parent to kind of chaperone them while they kind of testify and sit in the back. So when the parents would come, they would make the parents like, wave, or, out of all the parents, like they was making them wave and stuff, but they made this Black boy daddy stand up. I'm like, we see the boy Black. We don't need this Black daddy to stand up. You got all the other parents just waving that they in the back. But this was like show them that this is a Black kid. I don't know if that's what his purpose was, but I don't know. It was interesting. So anyways, I put, he was the 18-year-old Black kid. He was the class of 2026, off to college in the fall, graduated from Memorial. He points his dad in the back, and then they make his dad stand up. They wanted to know like how good he was in track. He said that he was pretty fast. And then they wanted him to describe their coach in one word. And then he said he describes his coach as serious. And then they wanted to know if he knew Metcalfs, the twins, Austin and Hunter. And he said he was closer friends to Hunter. So then they was like, "Oh, did you know that your mom, like, oh, so, they were like, oh, your mom is a doctor. And like, did you know that she was the pediatrician for the Metcalf brothers?" So, they showing like, look, jury, they're not racist. Look, like, he's Black. His mom's a doctor. And, well, what do you know? Your mom is she was the pediatrician for the Metcalf brothers, right? Because, like, y'all ain't asked, like, none of these other kids what they occupation, like, they parents' occupation. But he wanted to point out that this Black kid, mama is Black. Somebody said, is his mom Black? Yeah, this kid was fully Black. Like, he was all Black. Like, he wasn't a mixed kid. He was all Black. So anyways, so they wanted him to know that the mom was a pediatrician for the Metcalf brothers. And then so they wanted to know, like, how did his morning start? He said he got to the bus around 8:30. Austin was there. Hunter was late. It was lightly drizzling at first. And then closer to the stabbing, it was raining harder. Some of the athletes were on the field warming up. He was under the tent scrolling on TikTok. He said Austin was the only one standing up when the actual stabbing happened. Everyone else was sitting down. Says he came to the top, through the top of the bleachers, and sat next to Eddie. They wanted to know, well, like, when he came to the bleachers and he came to y'all tent, like, was this suspicious? He said he thought that it was suspicious because a random kid was coming up there solo. They wanted to know what he was wearing. He was wearing an Essentials hoodie. Says it was suspicious and came out of nowhere. He didn't come with anybody, and he didn't have any friends or anyone. They said, you remember Eddie? He was to the right of Karmelo. You didn't see him talking? He says he was scrolling on his phone. So he didn't know that Karmelo even had friends over there. He don't know why he over there. He said a lot of people were asking why he under there. Then more people asked, did they know who he is? And Austin asked him to leave. Austin was just informing him he has to get out the tent. Nobody knows him. Melo wasn't budging. It got more serious. Can you imagine? You came up to the tent to say hello to a boy that you have been hanging out with for the last 4 months, or even more than 4 months, right? He done went on a double date, like him, Eddie, the girlfriend, and another girl. They went on a 2-man double date. They didn't have family outing gatherings. They didn't have all of these interactions where he's hanging out with him. And then you go to say what's up to him. Somebody say, hey, you need to get out of here. Don't nobody know you. And the boy that you know don't even say nothing. I feel like if I was him, like that would piss me off in itself. Like, you really gonna not say nothing, like, and then like I feel like I'm like more of the principal type. Like, it's the principal for me. Like, that would have pissed me off. Like, Eddie would have pissed me smooth off, and then Austin talking to me, oh yeah, and then other people trying to join in too. Y'all all trying to punk me. Like, can you imagine how he felt in that moment? Like, please, like, and then you're bigger than me, and then the one that's the biggest out of everybody is coming to me, and then the one that I came to dap up, he's like being sarcastic, like, oh yeah, you didn't have nothing in your bag, and pulling out the phone trying to egg it on. Eddie, you are 18 years old, and you need to, I don't know what you need to do. It's already failed. Like, I wouldn't even feel right. Like, I wouldn't even feel right in my heart to do somebody like that. I wouldn't even feel right doing that. Like, I don't know how. Part 1 is up, guys. Part 1 is up. I wouldn't even feel right doing somebody like that. That's crazy. Hold on, let me put a link to part 2 on part 1. All right. Somebody said question. Right. All Eddie had to do was vouch and say, nah, he cool. Like, I'll tell him to go or something like that. Somebody said, is Eddie black? Eddie to me looked mixed. Eddie's mom was in the court. She looked like Filipino, maybe. You said it's saying private. It's not private because people are leaving comments on it. You wouldn't be able to leave comments on it if it was private. Shout out to Steady Nash. Somebody just said hear from Steady Nash. Shout out to Steady Nash for the shout out. All right. So back to what I was saying. So this we're on Jalen's testimony. So he said that a lot of people were asking why he under there. And then more people asked, did they know who he is? Austin asked him to leave. Austin was just informing him he has to get out the tent, and nobody knows him. Melo wasn't budging. It got more serious. They kept going back and forth. Austin addressed his hand in his backpack, and that Melo was already knew what he was going to do in his body language. But so he was like, while Austin is confronting him, Melo already knew what the jig was. He already knew that if you mess with me, I feel like in his mind, he was thinking on a 1-on-1, he felt like he was gonna lose. And the only up he had was, you know what I mean? It's a sad situation. Let's see. So he said he wasn't budging, got more serious. They kept going back and forth. Austin addressed his hand in the backpack, and that he already knew what he was going to do in his body language. Nobody was worried about him and his hand in his bag. And Austin said, "You have nothing in your bag. You're from Frisco." And we all laughed. Can you imagine? A group of football players is they trying to punk you. You telling them, like, don't come up on me, like I'm not, like, you better leave me alone. And y'all taunting him, talking about, you ain't got nothing in your bag. You from Frisco. Also trying to enforce that he's a punk, he's a buster. Like, boy, you're a little punk. Like, they didn't say that he was a little punk, but that's basically what they were saying by saying, you ain't got nothing in your bag. You from Frisco. And so he's sitting there like, don't fuck around and play with me. Like, leave me alone type. And he says that after that, they all laugh. So now he coming at me sideways. He's talking crap to me. He's significantly bigger than me. It's a whole bunch of boys in front of me. And then they're thinking it's funny and they're laughing. And then you got Eddie that's pulling out his phone and acting like he's recording. He said, they and that's where I feel like that was one of those buzzwords. We didn't think he had nothing in his bag. You're from Frisco. And we all laughed. Austin kept the same tone the whole time. So you mean to tell me a boy that's a few bleachers away that's gonna walk up on a boy and push him? He got his voice is just calm, monotone. He's so mad to where he want to get up and physically push the guy, but he calm the whole time, and his tone is like, come on. So it says, nobody was worried about him. He didn't got nothing in his bag. He said Austin kept the same tone the whole time, just telling him to leave the tent. Austin was a leader. And then so they wanted to know what was Hunter doing. Hunter stayed out of it. He just watched. Austin grabbed Melo's hoodie and pushed him enough to get him up out of his seat, but not to seriously hurt him. So you're gonna push me enough to get me out of my seat, but then try to downplay it as this like, oh, but it wasn't really like, yeah, he pushed him enough to get him up out of his seat, but not to really hurt him though. He said he pushed him enough to get him up out of his seat, but not to seriously hurt him. And the push wasn't hard, but he didn't see the stabbing motion. It was so quick. He didn't know what happened. He saw him lift his shirt and the inside of the stabbing. Then they wanted to know, well, at this point, did Hunter get involved? He said Hunter didn't get involved. He was sitting to the left of Austin and below Melo. And all he remembers is just being in shock. After that, they went to the buses with Coach Ruiz. He said it didn't look like Austin was trying to pick a fight, but it looked like Melo was trying to pick a fight. Austin was bleachers behind, like he was a few bleachers down. Karmelo is sitting down the whole time. He walks up on him and push him, but it didn't look like he was trying to get a fight. But it did look like Karmelo, who was sitting down the whole time, it did look like he was trying to get into a fight. And it appears that Karmelo was the one provoking him when Austin was the one that came at him sideways. It's like, okay. Make that make sense. Now, for me, it's like, okay. But to the media, they're like, oh, this proves that Karmelo was provoking him. Like, the kid said that Karmelo provoked them, so yep, he provoked them. And I don't give a damn what the kids say. That don't make logical sense. How he provoking, but y'all up on him? That's crazy. So anyways, if you guys are just tuning in, make sure to hit the like button. This is part 2. I went over a lot of details in part 1. This is a continuation of that live. So if you're on this live and you haven't seen the other live, go to part 1. And then once you finish with part 1, then come to part 2. We are breaking down everything in the Karmelo Anthony case and so much more. If you guys have not hit the like button, hit the like button. If you guys would like to donate to my social media travel fund, we are independent out here. It's Neek at Night Media on the Cash App. We would greatly appreciate it so much. And let's continue. So let's see. Okay, so he said it looked like Melo was trying to pick a fight. Melo did not look like he was unwilling to fight him. He was sitting the top right of the tent. Says the top of his backpack for Melo was open and he had his right hand in there. Nobody thought, oh, and this is when they said another buzzword. He said he had his hand in his bag, but nobody thought a knife would be at a track meet. If he got his hand in his bag, anything could be up in there. But they kept saying these buzzwords like, okay, like you got to hit this point. Like, you know what I mean? It just felt like you got to hit this point or hit that point. He had his hand in his bag, but nobody thought you would have a knife at a track meet. If somebody got their hand in their bag, you better think something wherever they are. You better think that they got something. Because let's not act like we in a world where there ain't kids bringing weapons to school. You ain't supposed to have a weapon at school, but kids is bringing them to campus. There's tons of school shootings. There's tons of weapon-involved incidents. Like, if somebody put their hand in their bag, you better think something. And the fact that all of them is acting like they didn't see like they like well, I didn't, like this is school. Like, who would have a weapon? You're being disingenuous, and now I know that you're coached. So it says they said they were at the track meet for an hour after the stabbing. He spoke to the police. He says they said, did it look like self-defense? They was like, nah, it didn't look like it was self-defense. And then they said no threatening talk from Hunter or Austin. Says Melo was the aggressor. So the prosecution was like, was Austin or them threatening him? Nah, like they didn't, there was no threatening talk. Who was the aggressor? Melo was the aggressor. So Cross, it says, so you said it was about an hour after the incident you spoke to the police? He said, yes, sir. They told you the body cam was on. They said, you said that you arrived around 8:30 and it was raining lightly at first, then harder closer to the stabbing, and that caused chaos. He said he noticed Melo get in a tent next to him and Eddie next to that. Melo came from the top of the stadium. He says that Melo was pretty close to him. They were knee to knee close, and Eddie was close to that. Were you aware that Centennial didn't have a tent that day? No, sir. You said, I don't remember him talking to anybody. Doesn't think he told the detective that Melo was talking and joking around. So he was like, okay, so he was like, oh yeah, he came to the tent. He didn't know nobody. He wasn't talking to nobody. But in his statement to the detective, he told the detective that when he saw Melo talking, he saw Melo laughing and joking around. So he made his statement to the detective 1 hour after the incident. So now a year later, he's claiming, oh, I don't know, didn't nobody know him? Like, we don't know why he was there. But that day that he made his statement to the cops, it says, you said that you saw him talking and joking around. I don't think I said that. Okay, so you're at the top corner, and he said, I think we had the most under any tent, the most people under any tent. And then he says, Austin and Hunter were near each other under the tent. So you remember saying he was joking around? See, and then this is when I'll be like, the kids came off so disingenuous to me. So he says, so you remember saying he was joking around, right? He gonna say, he said a singular joke. He told the detectives that before the incident, he was laughing and joking around. But now today, or not today, but yesterday when he took the stand, what he meant was that Karmelo told a singular joke. They said, well, Melo seemed normal and friendly when he first sat down. Yes, sir. You recall Melo saying, don't put your hands on me or something like that? Yes, sir. He said, so Austin stands up and you didn't notice the hand in the bag until Austin said something about it. And then he says, did Eddie stand up? He said, no, Eddie didn't stand up. Austin is calling Melo's bluff. That's how you saw it. Yeah, you can say that. Austin is down a row, but close enough. He just rotates his body to push him. Did you notice one of the other kids stood up? No, sir. Did you notice the other boy tell Austin, don't touch him? No, sir. So another kid down the line, I'm going to read his testimony. When Austin got up and acting like he was about to touch Karmelo, this other student told him, nah, don't touch him. Like, you know. And so they're asking this guy, well, did you notice when like this happened? Another student told him, don't touch him. He's talking about, no, I didn't see, like, nah, sir. Like, he didn't see all that. So how many kids did you guys have under the tent? He said that it was about 15 to 20 of them under the tent at the time. And he didn't know that Melo knew Eddie. Can you imagine the betrayal? Like, how these kids didn't know that Melo knew Eddie, but they showed several pictures of Melo. Like, when it got time for Eddie on the stand, they showed several pictures of him and Melo together. So can you imagine? You done hung out at Eddie's house. You got picture with Eddie grandma. You got picture with Eddie family. You done put basketball with the boy. Y'all done went on a 2-man double date. And kids don't even know y'all know each other, because when they're coming at him sideways, you just standing there egging it on. So he says that it was about 15 to 20 kids under the tent at the time, and he didn't know that Melo knew Eddie. He says Hunter, he thinks, was on his phone, but he let his brother handle it, and he only turned around at the end of the altercation. So his version is that Hunter wasn't involved at all. Like, Hunter was sitting there. He was just looking on his phone while his brother is getting into it with somebody. And he just let Austin handle it, and he just on his phone. Now, some kids say Hunter was involved. Some kids say Hunter was, getting involved with it. And then other kids say Hunter had nothing to do with it at all. He didn't do nothing. He didn't say nothing. He didn't do nothing. He like nothing. So he said that Hunter was on his phone and he just let his brother handle it, and he turned around only at the end of the altercation. They said during the altercation, was Melo standing? He said when Austin goes to move, Melo stands as Austin is grabbing in an upward motion like a lineman drill. So they kept bringing up the type of push was like a lineman drill. Let me look up what is a lineman drill and what does that look like. How to do a lineman drill. All right, and for the girlies that don't watch sports like me, they kept saying that the thing that he did was like a lineman drill. So let's look up for the girlies that don't watch sports what that is.
With your hands. In run game situation, you want to work on getting full extension with your arms. Here's the best.
We're going to mute it. He said you start on your knees and you go ahead, put your partner leans forward. You put them in a position. And so that's like a lineman drill. Okay. So they kept describing that the push was like a lineman drill. Okay, so he said, when Austin goes to move, Melo stands up as Austin is grabbing in an upward motion like a lineman drill. And then they said, okay, so what happened after the stabbing? He saw Melo afterwards on the field with a coach. And then they said, well, when you guys were on the bus, did y'all find Karmelo's Instagram? He said yes, and he was excused. The next witness is a 16-year-old boy. He is still in high school, and next year is going to be his junior year. Okay, so it says he plays track and football. He does so we're on to the next witness. He's a 16-year-old that's still in school. All right, so he played track and he's running hurdles. He goes to Memorial High School. He knew both twins. It says, what do you first remember? We took a bus. It was raining, yet it was muggy outside. Walked outside to set up the tent. It has their logo and it was like their home base. And he says that they called some down to the field for the 1600 and everyone else was just chilling. Nothing unusual before the stabbing except the rain. It wasn't bad until after the stabbing. So they was trying to ask him to set the stage. And then he's like, okay, we go under the tent. We just chilling under the tent. Some kids went and they got to do their event, their track events. And then some kids were hold on, where was I at? Some kids were just chilling under the tent. And then so they was like, okay, so how was the weather? Oh, it didn't get bad until after the stabbing. Melo walked up and sat in our tent. I was questioning why he was at our tent, and I thought maybe he was friends with someone. So it could have been all good. He's not from Memorial, so it's weird. Others, and then so they wanted to know, okay, so did you have a problem with him coming to the tent? And he was like, well, I thought maybe he probably knew someone, so I thought it was cool, like I thought it was all good. And then they wanted to know like if that happened before or if he was like speaking to Eddie. He says him and Eddie might have said hi. Everyone questioned why he was over here. Maybe he knew Eddie, but not much. Austin took the lead to take this guy out of our tent. Austin asks, he stated multiple times he had something in his bag and had his hand in the bag and stabbed him as he pushed him. He says he didn't have a combo about it says Austin was frustrated, Mello was frustrated. It could have been as easy as him leaving the tent, but he pulled a knife out of his backpack. And they wanted to know, okay, so what kind of push was it? When Austin went up there to push him, what kind of push did he push? He said that it was a light push to the shoulder, just a light push to the shoulder, and it wasn't anything major. They said it was similar to like a lineman drill. He said it was less than that. Said it was a one-hand nudge. And then they said, are you sure about that? He said he was sure about that. It was a lot of, why are you under this tent? It wasn't aggressive until he decided not to listen. So them calling him out and telling him he needs to leave, he don't belong there, he needs to get to stepping, that wasn't aggressive. It only became aggressive because he didn't want to leave. So it says he decided not to listen. And as it escalated, his tone got more aggressive. Austin, so then they wanted to know, what was Austin's demeanor? Like, how was he? What was his vibe? He said Austin was a little frustrated, but it wasn't like he was trying to start something. Austin wanted him out of there. And if it came to fighting him, that's what he was going to do. He said Austin wanted him out of there, and if it came to fighting him, that's what he was going to do. They said, did it surprise you about him having a weapon at a track meet? So then this is when they say they buzzword. Would it surprise you that he had a weapon at a track meet? He says, I would never think anyone would have a knife at a track meet. I wrote, very coached answer. That's the, like, I would never think somebody would have a knife at a track meet. I put very coached answer. He says, Austin jumps up saying, I got stabbed. Mello jumps up and throws the knife. Hunter is right beside Austin. He wasn't involved much once it happened. He got involved and held Austin. And then they were like, okay, so normally when there's a fight about to happen, kids get rowdy. They start acting like they're recording or whatever. Like, what do you think about fight videos? And when, kids like act like they like recording a fight and all that. He said he thinks that fight videos are funny, but nobody under the tent saw this coming. He told them where the knife was, and they took him straight to the police station. They wanted to know, like, how did Karmelo get out the tent? They said it was a walk, then jog, then walk, and then he was calm. And then they wanted to know, what was Karmelo trying to do? Like, was he trying to escape or something when he was doing this? And then he said that he think he was just trying to get away from the other athletes and police. Did anyone point him out to one of the heritage coaches? And what was Austin screamed, and he says, I got stabbed. And he says he didn't see the wound, but he saw the blood spot. And it says, well, in your opinion, was this stabbing done in self-defense? He said, no, sir. So according to you, who provoked it? Karmelo Anthony. So then it was time for the defense. And it says, they said he went to the station in the interview room and made notes in his phone after the police station. Waiting for the interview, he was able to text friends that now, and that's how he found out that Austin had died. They said, you do recall him getting in the tent? Yes, sir. He came up on the left side, said it gave the impression they knew each other and they dabbed each other up. So it says him speaking to Eddie, it gave the impression that they knew each other. They says, did Eddie say anything when he was being questioned? He doesn't remember if Eddie said anything. He said, well, you told the detective that both Hunter and Austin asked him to leave. He says he don't remember that. So he got amnesia, okay? But he told the detective that Austin was telling him he need to leave, and so was Hunter. But now on the stand, I don't remember. He don't remember. It says, well, let me refresh your memory or whatever. He says, they showed him the thing, says, this, like, you don't remember him saying his name was Mello? No, sir. And then so he like, so what happened? They might have used curse words, but he don't remember because they wanted to know, like, did he use any curse words? Was it like what was it given? He said Austin was 6 feet from Mello. Hunter was right next to Austin. Karmelo told him told him several times he had something in his backpack. Mello said, "You're gonna have to move me." No one believed he had something in his bag. Mello was sitting down. When Austin stood up, he was 1 row above Austin and reached across to push him. They said, did you see how big Mello was? About 5'9", 140 or 150. Well, Austin is over 200 pounds and 6'1". Austin was bigger than, and then he said Austin was bigger than Hunter, about 50 or 60 pounds heavier than Mello. He said Austin could have possibly looked intimidating because he was like trying to paint the scene like, okay, Karmelo is small, he's big. Like, do you think he could have looked intimidating to him? And he says that Austin could have possibly looked, intimidating to somebody smaller. Says the push didn't knock Mello off balance. Says the force didn't make Mello come out of his seat. He walked up afterwards to throw the knife down, and he didn't see Mello running after. So then they were done with him and got on to the next. So the next is a 17-year-old black boy, and he too had the yellow stress ball. Okay. Somebody said, Neek, were there many objections? No. I was expecting that there was going to be a lot of objections, sustain, objection, whatever, sustain. There hasn't been a lot of objections. I feel like a lot of stuff they kind of already fleshed out through the pretrial motions because there hasn't been a lot of objections. Like, so they said so he walks in, he's a black boy, he's 17 years old, and he also has a stress ball in his hand. And then the prosecution wanted to know about the stress ball, and he said they all have their own stress ball. He's still in high school, he graduates next year. His mom and one of his sisters was also at the track meet. His mom was working. He recently lost his dad because they were like, okay, so you had a significant event like recently, or I forget the words that they used, but they were like, you have a tragedy that just recently happened. And he said, yeah, I lost my dad. And then they wanted to know, how did he lose his dad? He said his dad was murdered by some man recently. And then they wanted to know what position he plays in football. And he says that he plays running back in football and he was on a track team along, and says the coach star is strict. He rode to the stadium on the team bus and he did the long jump. He's not sure it started raining bad. So they got on the bus. So he went over there to warm up. So he went to get his shorts. He forgot them, went back to the tent. As he was putting on his shorts, he saw Austin talking to Melo. His sister had on a yellow poncho, and Austin was asking him, "Who are you?" And I agreed with Austin. Like, yeah, just leave. That's when he was trying to provoke Austin. So Austin said, just leave. He agreed with him and also told him that he needs to leave, but like he wasn't the one provoking. Okay. Karmelo was trying to provoke him into a fight. It says, what kind of like shove did Austin do? He said he did a light tap and he stabbed him. Stuff like this never happens, not at a track meet in Frisco. So they wanted to know, like, were you surprised that he had a weapon? And he said, stuff like this never happens at a track meet in Frisco. So then they wanted to know, like, what was his relation to the twins? It says the twins were my teammates and my leaders. Austin loss affected him. It was the one person who believed in him and pushed him to be great. So when he said that, I noticed that Austin mom's, like, she started to get like emotional in the courtroom and stuff like that. And so he said that he was very affected by the loss because he felt like Austin was the one person that believed in him. Okay. It says Austin, he pushed him to be great. He says, okay, so what was he saying? He said, Austin says, just leave. Austin says, I'm not going to fight you, Melo. And then they said Melo had his hand in his bag. I didn't think nothing like this happened. We live in Frisco. This is a safe city. Did he provoke Austin? He provoked Austin. After him and his sister ran and walked back to see if Austin was okay after the stabbing, they said you could see Melo jump down, jog, then walk. Someone caught him. I don't think he was trying to run away, but I think he was trying to blend in with the crowd. His sister went to look for for his mom, and he didn't have his phone. It was in his book bag. His sister saw the stabbing. It shook his sister up worse than it shook me. And then they wanted to know, like, well, your sister was supposed to testify too, right? And then he says that she wasn't up to testifying. And then it says, well, we thought about asking your mom to testify as well. And then they said, well, she wasn't up for testifying either. So it says, Austin told him, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet. So he didn't think it was going to be anything. And they wanted to know, okay, so when this is going on, where's Hunter? Hunter was a couple steps behind Austin. He was just watching like everyone else was doing. And then they said, they wanted to know, did Melo stab Austin in self-defense? He said, no, sir. Who provoked this? Karmelo. Okay. And so it says, when you left and got shorts, the argument was already going on. He said, when you got back, Austin was talking to Karmelo. It wasn't no talking back and forth. When he got there, he was down at the bottom. Says Austin didn't touch him hard. He says, can you come up here? So they made him demonstrate how it was that he pushed him. And he says a light tap with one hand on his shoulder, then Karmelo stabbed him. Do you remember talking to the detective 1 hour after? Yes, sir. Do you remember they asked you what Melo did after? You said, I seen him after he ran to the top, then ran to a coach. You testified different that day about him running to a heritage coach. And then he says, well, he was trying to blend in. He's seen kids talk to other kids under their tent before. Yes, sir. So they was like, well, you've seen kids go to tents that are not their own before, right? He said, yes, sir. He says our coach wanted us to get to know each other first. Never told them to throw a kid out. The coach is the one who normally answers that, and then they let him out. So then next to testify was a black girl, and she went to Liberty High School. She didn't even go to the school that they went to, but because she was in the area when it happened, they called her because she said that she, has info. So she went to Liberty High School, but just graduated, headed to college. She has a twin sister, and they wanted to know if she had a strict upbringing. He was like, out of nowhere, he was like, you had a strict upbringing. And so she kind of looking like, why? Like, what are you talking about? He says, he said, no, sir. And then he says, your mom was a former prison guard. She was there with Liberty with the team and 2 tents, one for girls and one for the guys. It says 5.5 feet, rained off and on, rained hard for a couple of minutes, and then it drizzled after he saw the commotion. And they were like, and he saw a verbal argument, saw people, what does that say? People wanted a certain person to leave. She saw Austin and Melo have a verbal disagreement. It says, Karmelo said, if you want me to move, you would have to move me. By the time she looked back, she saw the incident. The stabbing affected her a bit. She said that Karmelo was more aggressive than Austin and said Austin didn't look like he was trying to fight. It happened on for a minute or 5 minutes or so. And before he looked away, he says, I hear a commotion because and that's what caused her to look back. So this person didn't go to their school, but their tent was around in the area. It says, I heard his brother trying to find help for him. It says, then he started to cry and still having issues dealing with it. It's unfair and wrong, and thought that it had nothing to do with race. And he don't think for himself that it had anything to do with race. And that's that. So they went down to the police station to talk to the police. Says that Karmelo was trying to antagonize the others. She told the police what she heard people saying. And then it was time for the defense, and it says, you said you came and talked to the detective Adam after the event. Says she got back under the Liberty tent because it started raining. And she said, first thing she remembers is Karmelo being asked to leave the tent. It says, well, you told the detectives that Karmelo was trying to get Austin to fight him and was going to beat him in a race. So he basically confronted her about lying to the police, saying that she heard something she didn't. She was relaying gossip to the detective as if it was her firsthand info. So then after that was a black kid. And we're going to continue the rest tomorrow. I'm finding myself kind of like getting tired now. So actually, okay, so it's just let me see. All right, let me finish the next witness. So the next witness is a 17-year-old boy. He goes to Memorial High School. He has a twin brother. He plays football and track and says Coach Starr is aggressive because each kid, they wanted to ask, like, well, what kind of coach is Coach Starr? And they wanted to kind of like convey, like, he's strict, he's stern, he's militant and stuff like that. So this next witness, he's a 17-year-old black kid. And I found him to be the most solid, in my opinion. Like, he just testified like he had integrity, and it just didn't seem as much of like it was like a script like the other ones. Who is that on my page? So anyway, so the next witness is a 17-year-old black kid. He goes to Memorial High School and has a twin brother. He plays football and track, and he says Coach Starr is aggressive. They asked him if the coach liked him, and he says something like that. And the prosecutor said, I just wanted to see you smile. He says, we talk about the track meet. Austin was the team leader on the team and was friends with him, had a lot of friends on the track team. Him and another kid are friends, and they set up their tent, and then he had to change into his track attire. Everybody was under there because it began to like storm. It was him and another kid and a few other people. And he knows Hunter doesn't remember them under the tent. They came back from somewhere. They got back. Matter of fact, actually, before I do that one, I'm gonna come back tomorrow. Who are y'all arguing with in the comments? Y'all are a mess. So anyways, so I have a few more pages of the next witness, and then I have everything that we went over today. I'm going to get a few hours of sleep to where I don't have to wake up like right away and get like 2 hours. So I'm going to get a few hours of sleep, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish the rest. But I just wanted to cover as much as I could for y'all. I am tired, and I can feel myself like as I'm trying to get through the rest of it, I could feel myself like getting more and more and more tired. I want to convey everything as I witnessed it in the courtroom. So give me a few hours to sleep, and then I'm going to come back and fill you guys in on the rest. All right. But so far, what do you guys think about the testimony? This is part 2 of the coverage that I did yesterday. And then tomorrow we're going to cover what we went over, blah, 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 like that. If you guys are here and you made it this far, make sure you hit the like button. If you enjoy my coverage, make sure to tip your girl. I'm out here independent, and I need to drink some water. And tip the cookie jar, okay? And I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm gonna get some rest because tomorrow's the first day where we don't have to be up. Like, I could get a few hours of sleep. So make sure to check part 1 and part 2.